Hey guys, it's Joe from Walk with God. Today I want to talk about my testimony, how I came to know Christ and where God has me now. I've already got a video on this, but I haven't done one recently, and honestly I think I could do one better now. I do believe I've grown as a YouTuber since the last one that I did, and I think it's important to have a more updated video. So here goes. I was born in Southern California, specifically in Orange County, but I grew up in the greater Los Angeles area, and this was after my parents divorced. I was 5 when that process started, and it was a really nasty divorce that is still kind of contentious even today, more than 20 years later. My dad's side of the family has a long history of Christian Science, which is a very different take on the Bible that I personally don't believe in. My mom got more interested in it than my dad was and still is, so she ended up trying to raise me in it. Meanwhile, I'm splitting time between my parents and getting varied amount of exposure to it, as you would expect. Ultimately, my mom did get primary custody of me and ended up moving us across the country, so I split time between the East Coast and the West Coast with my mom and my dad. And I never really fit in at the East Coast, so there was some contention that eventually built up between my mom and I. Eventually, I started having a really hard time with Christian Science, and it didn't really answer the problem of evil, so I left it. This also caused a lot of contention between my mom and I, especially because as a person, I was just developing more like my dad. Eventually, I would get to a point in my life where I felt different from both of my parents, but at the time, that was kind of where I was headed. And my mom really hated my dad. I think to a certain extent she still has some of that stored up. And there were some other issues that my mom was facing at the time with just going through grad school and eventually getting her PhD while raising me. So I ended up moving in with my dad and my stepmom. My dad remarried, my mom still hasn't. And, you know, I was a teenager, so that relationship could also be contentious. And for a number of years, at the end of high school and into college a little bit, I still had kind of an interest in religion and the idea of God. You know, I recently remembered that I did a college project that had to do with the Great Awakening. Look it up if you don't know what it is. It's pretty fascinating. You know, I went to a Catholic Mass once with a friend of mine and to a Baptist service with another friend. Eventually, I just felt like I wanted to seek the biblical version of God and started attending a Christian church. And then I went from community college to four-year college and ended up getting into things that I shouldn't have gotten into. You know, I kind of saw Christianity as another religion, which is why I'm big on trying to convey to you guys that it is not. I promise you, the wages of sin is death. I have experienced that. I don't want anyone else to experience that. So a long-term unhealthy relationship of mine ended, and I ended up using that time to seek God more. I ended up, despite majoring in speech therapy in undergrad, applying for grad school in occupational therapy. This is after a couple of years of doing the prerequisites for that major. And I got in. I got into USC, which is the best school in the country for occupational therapy. Ranking wise, it's technically number 3 right now, but that's because they raised their tuition, and that's a factor in USA Today, I believe, which does the college ranking. Recently, I graduated from the program, and for my last requirement, I ended up moving to Northern California. I have since settled in the Bay Area, Silicon Valley. My walk with God has grown so much since coming up here, and I think you can see the difference in videos that I've made in 2017 and 2018 to my newer videos in 2019, and God still continues to do great things in my life. That's my testimony. I hope this encourages you that wherever you're at, God can still work with you and bring you closer to Him. And He can do that with other people who seem to have stubborn hearts. I had a stubborn heart, and God changed me. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel. Check out my different social media outlets, and I'll see you all in the next video. Have a blessed day or a blessed night.